We wanted to get into a little bit of a prospect talk, and we know who sits at the top of the mountain for the Toronto Maple Leafs, who's currently playing right now in the NCAA. And, you know, we want to get your thoughts because we know that you've had extensive looks into Matthew Knies. And first and foremost, you know, your overall thoughts about Knies and how realistic is it for Leaf fans?
Well, I mean, how realistic is it that he's going to play for the team? Very realistic. How realistic is it that he's going to be like an impact player, a difference maker? I'd probably temper expectations there, right? Like the player itself is a real kind of unicorn in the game, in that he's 6'3", 210. He's got incredible hands, and he can run guys over at the same time. So you don't find that combination of skill and size, you know, very often. I think he sees himself as like a prototypical power forward, which is going to, you know, make a certain section of Leafs fans salivate. But there's still, there's serious gaps in his game, right? Like his skating is a work in progress, particularly his lateral skating. And he's had a lot of success at the college level because, you know, not every player is 6'3", 210, but once you get to the NHL level, obviously, you know, 6'3", 210 is good, but it's not game breaking, right? So, you know, he's developed really, really well this season in particular. He wanted to go back, like, you know, Kyle Dubas wanted to sign the player last April, and credit to the player. He said, I'm not ready. Like, I'm not mature enough. That's something I learned, you know, when I went down to Minnesota in January. Hell of an assignment, Minnesota in January, by the way. But, you know, I went down and hung out with him there. And, you know, he's a remarkably self-aware kid. You know, like a lot of kids would look at, you know, a multi-million-dollar contract being placed in front of them and say, yeah, show me where to sign. But he knew he wasn't ready. And you could make the argument that after another full year of development, he's ready to play, but maybe not ready to make a high-end impact just yet.
Yeah.
You were able to watch a couple of games. How many games did you stick around for?
I saw 3 games. Now, most of those games were against Michigan State, not exactly a powerhouse, but I've been following along all season. Like, the thing, too, like, Matt Knies is having a good season, and he's playing on the best line in college hockey, right? His centerman is Logan Cooley, who, you know, might be the best player not in the NHL right now, probably going to be the best player from last year's draft. Jimmy Snuggerud, a first-round pick of the St. Louis Blues on the right side there. Like, he's playing with incredible players, and part of the dominance he's experiencing at the college level is because he's playing with great players. You know, I'm sure some people would say, well, that's part of the reason for his success, but I think it helps him to know that, like, when he goes to play pro, he's going to be playing with very good players as well. So I don't know if it's going to be like him sinking right away. Again, like I said, there's just some gaps in his game right now that I think are going to be pretty glaring at the pro level.
I don't know that this has been out there yet. He was named, I see it 5 minutes ago in my feed, one of the 3 finalists for the Hobey Baker Award, along with Logan Cooley and Adam Fantilli. So good, you know, that's good. He's had a tremendous season. You know, I put my lineup out there the other day, Josh, and some people responded to me like, how do you not have Knies up the lineup, or how do you even have him in the lineup? You know, where do you start this guy? Do you think it's possible to put him on the 4th line and just have him be a 4th line type player? Or given the way he's played offensively and all that, do you think he has to be in a position where he's with players who make plays with the puck and try to score?
Well, I mean, I think Zach Aston Reese probably saw your tweet and had the game he did last night, right?
True.
Like, you know, I think if you look at the Leafs' 12 best forwards, you know, when Ryan O'Reilly gets in there, I see Knies as the 13th forward, and I might be in the minority, right? But I say that because the kid's 20 years old. One thing I picked up from him, you know, hanging out with him in Minnesota, like he's a little bit green about the whole process. You know, I don't know if he fully understands what life in the NHL entails and how could he. So I don't know why you would, like, you don't need to put him in against Tampa Bay in a series that, look, if the Leafs make a costly error, that costs them the game, that might end up costing them the series. And I'm talking about, a Galchenyuk or Dermott type error. Like if Knies makes one of those and the Leafs lose, the entire organization could be overhauled. I just don't know why you would want to put a player in and put him in that kind of pressure pack situation when you don't necessarily need him. That's where I'm at, but it feels like Bourne, it feels like you're kind of on the opposite side.
No, it's fair. It's just not sexy, right? Everyone wants him to come up and be important.
Sure.
But yeah, if you feel like Zach Aston Reese can give you the same, I don't know, where do you sit on it, Kipper? Have you changed your mind about what Knies is or where he should start?
I've always found the left side of the Toronto Maple Leafs all season long the
soft
weakest,
spot, yeah.
a soft spot, a weak spot. I am intrigued at 6'3", 205 or 210 pounds. We know he's going to sign a contract. We know they're going to burn off a year. We know let's just start with one regular season game in the next 10 days, right? And go from there.
He'll play in those games, right? You look at I'm going on the road for those last 3 games of the year in a very large part to see what Matthew Knies looks like, right? Because you have to expect that some of their top guys are going to need some rest. Should have some rest over those final few games, and you're going to want to see what Knies offers. But, I guess if you're Sheldon Keefe, aren't you looking up and down the lineup and weighing out impact versus who can I trust not to make a mistake? Like I said, he's been burned by players making errors that have cost him the game in the past. And it's no coincidence that those players, like I'm talking about Galchenyuk, Dermott, even Rasmus Sandin, who had an error in Game 5, those players aren't with the team anymore. So I think if you're Sheldon Keefe, and again, you're right, Bourne, it's not sexy, but safe is probably the optimal way to go if you're Sheldon Keefe, is it not?
Well,
it's a playing to lose, not to lose versus playing to win type of thing.
You got a general manager who's got no contract next year, and the feeling is that you're attached to the hip with him. And if he goes, maybe I go too. And, I don't know where safety falls into that mentality.
What Matt Knies does bring that, Zach Aston Reese, Alex Kerfoot, don't, is real pure scoring instincts. What I took away from him watching him up close is that every time he has the puck, his MO is get to the goal as quickly as possible. He's a real straight lines player, and his physicality helps. He can bowl guys over on the way to the net. So that could be something that's really enticing, right? Maybe it's a matter of him coming in Game 4 or 5. Maybe they're down, maybe they're down 3-2 in the series, and they haven't been able to generate enough offense. Maybe then you feel comfortable bringing him in because he can score and he can shoot. He can rip a puck, and these are the high-end attributes of his game. And again, this is kind of the risk-reward thing that Sheldon Keefe is going to have to balance because, he's going to be a long-term, piece of the organization, and that's where I kind of go. Do you learn from the Nick Robertson kind of experiment in 2020 where you put him in, right into a playoff game and he scored a goal? Yeah, but then 2 games later, you're kind of looking at the player going he's barely swimming here, right? Adrenaline can only carry you for so long. That's kind of where I'm at with Matt Knies.